Hi, everyone. Thank you for returning to the Lights Too Bright podcast. Today, I have a friend, colleague who is I guess, a silver lining of COVID. We met through social media and then we end up having mutual friends. And now we have a Patreon together and I do a bit of work with Stuart for some of his CPD events. And we have a good time when we see each other. So, welcome everyone. Today's podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, Stuart Wellings. Hi,
Hello, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are
Good.
you?
Oh, I'm all right.
Yeah, I do like the branding. I know I said it off
Yeah,
camera, but
fair.
I do like the branding, and I've said this to other people. Um, this is my podcast, so we can talk about whatever we want. So you have all the opportunity in the world to talk about your events, which are fantastic events. That actually quite nicely leads me into my first question. The one I'd like to start for everyone is, so for our audience who don't know you, what do you do now? So what is your role?
Hi everyone. So my role is pretty varied in a sense. I suppose the main thing I do is EyeCare Education. So we run CPD events. We're a GOC approved CPD provider. So we run, amongst other smaller events, we do the fantastic EyeCare Glasgow, which everyone needs to be at. That's definitely the flagship, most fun event you'll have in the CPD calendar, no doubt. So we do that. We do CPD for different companies. So I might end up writing some workshops, some lectures for different companies. We do stuff for LOCs. We do stuff for individual groups. So we might get a group of practices, a group of individual optoms or locums or whoever who wants a session in person or online. So we do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so in terms of like the education side of it, that's basically what we do in terms of CPD. We also work with a few different companies in terms of helping bring like products to market, deliver education on new stuff coming into the market and new products or existing products that they want to raise awareness for example. Stuff like we've done stuff like MacuShield and things like that in the past. So that's kind of what we do in terms of education. My kind of day to day, I do a little bit of locuming as a DO. So when I'm not busy with the CPD stuff, I'll do some locum days for a couple of indies or some of the multiples as well. I also do a little bit of examining for Abdo. So I've been doing practical exams since about 2017, 2018, I think. So we do PQEs, FQEs, test visits, and stuff like that. But that's really fun to do. Uh, and other than that, yeah, that's about it. I think that's pretty much what occupies my day to day at the moment. There is new stuff in the pipeline. We have potentially got a very exciting project coming soon, but I have signed an NDA, so I can't really say too much about it. But
Fair enough.
but watch this space. Hopefully, that's going to happen very, very soon. And yeah, a couple of other little bits that we're working on. So yeah,
So,
that's what we kind of do now.
I mean, that's a lot of things, Stuart. And
Yeah,
you've managed to find time to come and talk to me.
well,
So, thanks.
yeah. I mean,
Keep him busy.
the trick is obviously you've got to. I think you know the score as well, okay? It's separating your downtime from your work time as well, isn't it? And making sure that you're not, you know, answering emails and doing stuff in your evenings and saving a little bit of time for the fun stuff.
Yeah. So where did you grow up, Stuart? This is kind of path we take. Where did you grow up? Where is home now?
So I grew up in Birmingham. Um, you may your listeners may pick up on the accent.
Accent.
I try and hide it as best I can, but it's difficult. So I grew up in an area called Bourneville in Birmingham, which is famous for the Cadbury factory. So my uh, primary school education was just smelling the cooking chocolate from Cadbury's coming over, wafting over the playground, which was quite nice. Um, and then yeah, I've lived all over Birmingham, but I'm back not far from where I grew up now, in an area called Northfield. So yeah, quite close to where I grew up. So yeah.
Question I ask all my optometrist friends,
Mhm.
and you are my first non-optometrist guest. Do you always want to be a DO?
No, no.
So, so this is good because this. How did you ended up getting there? Because I know you do all this other stuff now, but for me, I think is that the start of your journey in terms of the eye care space?
Um, no, no. I think the eye care stuff was not something I really planned either.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, I started out in IT. I kind of left school with all right GCSEs. Could have done a lot better. I did a YTS scheme in computer hardware and computer.
Do we need to explain that to some of the younger
So
people?
yeah, so I forget how old I am actually. So many years ago, so we're talking like 98, 99 here. We had these things called YTS schemes where you basically got paid £40 a week to do an NVQ, which stands for not very qualified, is what I'm told. So I did that for a bit, worked in IT for a little bit, kind of enjoyed it. Problem was I was enjoying my life outside of work a little bit too much. I left home when I was 18, decided to move in with some friends. Um, the most sensible idea I've ever had in my life. So
Live and
work,
learn.
yeah, yeah. I mean, work kind of got in the way of my social life a little bit. And then the sack for never turning up for work hardly. So the IT career kind of took a hit. And I just did loads of different jobs. I was just like bouncing from job to job to job, not a clue what I wanted to do. I was in a band for a few years, so I kind of had hopes of making it in the music industry. Didn't quite work out either. Ended up just I was doing like admin jobs. I've done sales, telesales. I've done door to door sales. I've worked for the council. I've worked for social services. So yeah, so I was just going from job to job to job. Hated every single one of them. And then I saw a job with a company called Ultralays, which was they're not going anymore. But those of you that might not remember them, they were one of the first sort of laser surgery providers, and they needed someone who had kind of customer service skills and IT skills to do for the job role, which they called I think it was a diagnostic specialist, which I thought sounded quite fancy. It's basically just pre-screening, doing wavefront, pentacams, that kind of thing, pressures. And then I just
You know
found,
what? What I will say is to do that well
hmm,
does take a level of skill, and I know and I know you've said it, kind of just pre-screening, but
yeah,
sometimes to get the best out of that kit, we've got a clinical technician who does stuff for us, and you know Lyndon, you've met Lyndon.
yeah, I've met it.
Um, you kind of sit there and go, "How have you got that? I can't get it. How have you got it?" And it's just that experience and knowing, being familiar, like one with the kit,
Yeah,
kind of thing. But I just want to say that because it is. I think sometimes what happens, Stuart. We work our way up, and we forget
yeah,
kind of how hard some of that is initially. And for you to have come from a non-optics background, how was it when you first went in there? That must have been like eye-opening.
yeah, a little
No
bit
pun intended.
because it well, we're here for the eye jokes all night long, aren't we? So yeah, I think for me it was I'd never really thought of anything like that as an option. And it was a little bit daunting at first because it's like, oh, this is our ophthalmologist, our surgeon, Mark. There's a guy called Mark Wevel, um, who's absolutely fantastic surgeon. He's brilliant. Like he's such a nice guy, and he was so supportive of me, and he was really encouraging. And there was an optometrist that I worked with called Carly, who I ended up working with a bit later on as well. Um, but those two were the people who really pushed me into it, because I just kept asking questions. I was just like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, that looks interesting. What does that be? The ID? What does that be?" And then I started learning a bit about the anatomy, um, and then it's particularly Carly. She was just like, "Yeah, go and study it. Go and study it. Go and do like the DO course." And Carly was living not far from me, in an area called Wheelie Castle. Those of you who know Birmingham will know that Wheelie Castle isn't the nicest of areas. But to me, I thought like opticians or optoms, I thought they were all like posh and, come from private school and stuff like that. And then I met Carly, who was just like a proper down to earth Brummy girl. And I was like, yeah, I could actually do something in this now. Kind of gave me a bit more confidence in it. And then, yeah, then I sort of started looking into doing the DO course. Went to work for Optical Express. And then that's where I started the DO course about a year after working there, and then just played through that. And then everything kind of happened after that, really.
Okay. So full-time DO
Mhm.
or no, full-time DO course or
Mhm.
the kind of
Distance learning with Abdo.
distance learning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I assume OE sponsored you through that? Is
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And again, most of the people on the pod or listening to this, I'm assuming now, up until now, will be optometrists. So in the UK, there are a couple of ways you can get a dispensing optician qualification. Um, One of them is by going and doing essentially a degree. Um, but the other is to do kind of, how did they describe it?
So basically, because we were quite, well, we were the first in the country to do the BSc honours through Abdo.
Okay.
Apart from the lecturers, they did it like the year before. But we were the first cohort students in 2011 when we qualified. It's basically the way it works is you work full time. You do a weekly assignment, which can take anything from like an hour to maybe 3 or 4 hours, depending on how difficult it is. You do all like like your you have to log certain amount of dispenses, collections, etc., and tick things off in that sense, like your portfolio. Couldn't think of the word then, portfolio. And then you go twice a year. You go for lectures at Abdo College for 2 weeks, and then at the end of that, that's what you get. It's a foundation degree or dispensing optician diploma, which with Abdo is a level 6. But then what they decided to do was add some extra modules, some extra essays, and so like a dissertation at the end. And then that bit was overseen by Canterbury Christchurch University, and then that was the BSc honours bit that we did. So
Okay.
yeah, we were like literally like the first ones to do that, which was,
Groundbreaking.
yeah, well, like to be
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Cutting edge.
yeah, it was touch and go, to be honest, because you don't need the BSc. So if people are sort of thinking, which route do I go down? Do I need to do the BSc? Me personally, I wanted to do it because I wanted a degree, and I thought it might lead to other things in terms of academia and stuff like that. But if you want to be a DA, you don't need to do the BSc. And there's a few people on my cohort that once we finished our final exams and we had another sort of 4 weeks until we had to do our final dissertation, there were a few that just thought, "Oh, I can't be asked with this. I've
Yeah.
got my
Yeah.
qualification. I don't need to do like a 10,000 word essay just to get an extra bit." So, but yeah, it was worth playing through. So I'm glad I did it.
Cool. So how long were you just DOing?
So, I mean, I was at OE for 4 years, and then I went to Specsavers, quite a big Specsaver. I think maybe like in the top 3 in terms of size in the country, in Birmingham. So we had
Wasn't that their flagship for a
it
while?
was for a while, yeah, it was for a while, I think. But it's literally like 12 test rooms, 2 contact lens rooms on top of that. Just madness, absolute madness. Like learning to work at a pace, and do things when you've got queues and queues of people, people collecting glasses, queuing up round the corner. It was crazy. So I did that as manager there for a bit. Ended up doing the CLO course there as well. So I was managing the contact lens department. So we had about 10,000 patients on direct debit for contact lenses there. Um, so yeah, it was just mental. It was just like non-stop. So I was fitting contact lenses 1 day a week, doing the CLO course, and then managing the department. Um, yeah, it just wasn't really for me. You know, politics and workplace drama and stuff like that. So I kind of looked for a different opportunity because I didn't enjoy the CLO stuff, to be honest. Um, really enjoyed the course. And I think if I was doing the kind of stuff that you do with sclerals and like the interesting stuff and seeing the pathology, then yeah, I'd have probably stuck at it. But just doing like look up, look down, blink, okay, here's your direct debit, sign here, and we'll give you some
Yeah.
lenses kind of thing. It just didn't really do it for me. So that's when I ended up moving to Asda. So I went to Asda in Redditch, which was a brand new store, brand new opticians. So we had to build it from scratch. And I had a team of 7 people there. 6 of them had never worked in optics before. One of them had. She was an absolute nightmare. So it was that's a whole different podcast, by the way. We won't go
Yeah.
into that. So that was quite interesting. So I had to train up the team from scratch, and obviously having people leave, new staff coming in quite frequently as well. So yeah, that was an interesting challenge, and it was there that I kind of started doing the CPD stuff, which basically it was just because there was like a group of us, like a group of managers within our region. We always used to like be in WhatsApp groups and chat to each other, but we never really got much time to actually sit down with each other. So we thought, let's pretend we're doing some CPD. We'll organise a peer review, and then we can tell head office that we're working, and we can sit around and have a chat and do some education. So I kind of learnt the process of applying for CPD at that point. And then because we had a lot of locums and stuff as well, then some of the locums were, oh, can you do one for us as well? And then other people started asking, and then thought, okay, well let's actually become a provider and start setting up events, and that's how it all started, really. So yeah, so completely by fluke, I suppose.
I mean, you could say by fluke. You could say by the sounds of it, you enjoy educating. You enjoy learning.
Yeah,
Um, although you had a period of time where you probably didn't enjoy that. You just were being young. You enjoy learning, and you've gone, well, actually, not only do I enjoy learning, I enjoy sharing knowledge.
yeah, definitely. I think because whenever I was in practice, I was always doing training. I was always like the in-store trainer. I was always the person that'd be like, right, let's do a workshop on this. Teach people about lenses or whatever. I always really enjoyed that aspect of it. So yeah, I suppose it was a natural path to follow in that sense.
Um, with when you started to do it, was there anyone who kind of helped you, or was it a case of figuring it out by yourself and just then looking at the next step and then looking at the next step kind
Um,
of thing?
so in terms, yeah, I think there's, I mean, the thing with optics in general, it's that kind of culture, isn't it? We learn off each other. Um, we all have a supervisor, we all have peers, we all have people that we go to. Um, I'm sure I've picked your brains more than a few times on things, haven't I? So it's what the group's for, isn't it? We have
Yeah,
WhatsApp groups and things like that.
yeah.
So I think in terms of really sort of helping us grow as a business and making connections and getting out to to a wider audience, our friend from Bondi, VJ. Uh, so me and Vij worked together at Optical Express, and then when we started putting on events, Bondi were our first sponsor. Vij knows everyone in the industry, literally, whether it's an Optama Dio or anyone in the supply chain. So he was really instrumental in us finding new sponsors, and he'd be always like, okay, now I've spoken to these people about you. These people want to exhibit with you and stuff like that. So he was hugely instrumental in that. Um, and then when it came to putting on like the CPD element of it, a lot of that was kind of trial and error. Made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of things pretty badly. But I think that if one person who really helped us along with that was Peter Charlesworth, who kind of, I think we kind of got in touch through LinkedIn because I think I was posting something about an event, and then someone messaged me and said, "Oh, you should speak to this guy Peter Charlesworth. He runs EyeCare Glasgow." So we sort of started dropping a few messages, um, and then he just invited us up to Glasgow, and just sort of took us under his wing a bit, really. Showed us how he ran the event. He was always there if we had questions about CPD and what can we do, what can't we do, what's the rules around this, what's the rules around that kind of thing. And then eventually, obviously, we ended up buying the EyeCare Glasgow conference off him, and then it
Okay.
kind of really grew from there, really.
So when was your first Glasgow? Or your first EyeCare Glasgow?
So our first EyeCare Glasgow, well, this is why it became a little bit tricky, because I don't know if Peter had some kind of foresight and he knew that the world was about to collapse in 2020, but we basically went up there in January 2020. We signed the contracts. We made it look like transfer window deadline. So me and
Yeah.
my business partner hit, and we had football shirts with EyeCare 2020 on the back. We did like a bit of a photo shoot with it and everything. So yes, we took it over in 2020, with our first one due to run in 2021. And then obviously pandemic kind of got in the way a little bit. So we ended up doing our first one online, which you helped out. And then you were multitasking, doing your Peloton and delivering a
Yeah.
peer review at the same time, which is
Well,
the first.
I was a facilitator, wasn't I, for Kate's
Yes, yeah,
peer
yeah,
review.
yeah, yeah. Kate
Yeah.
Gifford, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun. So that was a bit of yeah, that was an experience. So yeah, that we again, big learning curve. Um, and then we got to do it in the flesh in 2022. But even then, because we had it was Omicron back then, wasn't it? So we ended up having to move it back from January to April. Um, and it was hard work. It was really hard work. We had a couple of members of staff that couldn't come up with us because of COVID, so we were like short staffed, and then there was mask restrictions. There was yeah, it was quite a difficult first one, to be honest. But after that, we've made a few tweaks, and we've sort of got it where we want it to be now. And the one in January was just that was the best one we've ever done. So that was really rewarding.
I mean that is so. I've done EyeCare Glasgow, and we enjoyed it. We had a good time. I've always been fascinated, not fascinated. We've never had a chance to chat about it. 'Cause you always end up
Cool.
chatting shit really about other stuff. But I was always curious as to how it happened because I must have been at 22. Was it 22 or was it 23? When did I come up
I
with
think it was
when I
23, because we didn't
yeah,
do
it was
any.
back in January. It was
Yeah,
January
because we
because
did.
it was
That was the first
freezing.
time we did the awards. We kind of introduced the EyeCare Awards, because we thought that'd be fantastic to have an award ceremony, and there's always something happening on the Sunday night. Obviously, those that don't know, it's a 2-day event, so we always wanted to do some kind of social or some kind of it was like a pub quiz or a raffle, just
Yeah,
something. So we thought, let's do some awards. I think you won about 3, didn't you?
two,
2?
I
Oh,
think.
sorry. Okay. But yeah, you took home some silverware that night. Um, I wasn't involved in the judging process, obviously, so that anyone's questioning our integrity is
I
on board.
it's one of my proudest awards
That's good.
because it not only because you're my friend and it was your event, but because it was judged by someone I had no kind of influence over.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in the past, I got a few awards here and there, right? It's not a secret, but I've always felt like I've had some element of influence in that.
Mhm.
I'm sure these people know me or they may have heard of me.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I came to Scotland, I was pretty certain they had no idea who Keyur Patel of Tompkins Knight and Son in Northampton was. So it was a surprise, and it was
Yeah.
really nice. It
I
was really
think as
nice.
well, and I'm sure I said this to you before, I think I might have said it to Brian as well when he came up that one year. But I think almost sometimes when people see TKS or your name or Brian's name in an award category, I think sometimes they think, "Oh, can't give it to these guys again." You know what I mean? It's like, so maybe it can be a positive and a negative, in both senses, really. So, but what we've done the last couple of years is the awards have just taken on a whole sort of new lease of life. So we were sort of really struggling with how do we make this awards, a real night to remember. and then Grant Cardwell from XIX, one of our biggest supporters. He approached us and he's like, I want to run a party. Can I organise the awards? And we were like, yeah, crack on. And him and his team they put on an absolute belter of an awards night.
It looked amazing. It
It's
really did look amazing.
it's fantastic. So it's like black tie or a kilt. Obviously, we hire kilts for the night. There's a live band. There's a really funny presenter. And it's just a fantastic night. It's a big social event, isn't it? But it's it's a real, like I say, I know I go on about Glasgow a lot, but it's such a highlight of our year because it's so much fun, and it's hard work, but it's so much fun. Um, but it's a massive social, and there's a very regular crowd that go there. And they go because they see their friends. That's the one time a year they see them. And, I mean, the Hilton must make an absolute killing on the bars from our delegates. But the main thing is, obviously, we've got the awards, we have the social. The best thing about Glasgow, the education is top tier. Um, Everyone always comments on how in depth the education is. And I think, and you'll know as well, Kaya, when we're talking about Scotland are just a level above. I know. I don't want to sound like I'm putting England down or the rest of the UK, but when it comes to optometry in general, Scotland really do go that extra mile, and I think it's partly because most of them are IP trained, um, but they use it, and that's the most important thing. They
Their
do a lot.
model is different.
Yeah,
So Scotland and Wales, their model is different, and it is from someone outside looking in. I don't really know it. It looks like it's designed to optimize the optometry workforce
yeah,
for the benefit of their patients, whereas NHS England is so disjointed. In my region, we don't even have a MEC scheme. In other parts of the country, you've got people managing herpetic eye disease, to the point where, okay, now it needs to go to a consultant because they need something chopped out kind of scenario. So
yeah,
which is a bit unfortunate. Um, a question that I have for you, which I think you've sort of answered, but I'd like to hear it from you. I know within optometry, you know, there isn't really a conference culture. So, I've lived in the States, and there is very much a conference culture where they're like, right, we should go to conferences to gain education and to, like you said, meet your friends, catch up with people who you may not have seen for a year or 2 years. Is that the same within the dispensing optician world, that people are not, there's not really a conference culture, which would be nice to change, but
yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's the way that we do like CPD and CET over the years. I don't know if it's become a little bit of a tick box. It certainly was more of a tick box when it was CET. And I don't know if I think there's definitely um, different levels within the industry, and I think there's people who are really sort of pushing and passionate about it, and really want to sort of know the latest thing. They want to go really in depth on discussions. They really want to sort of set a high standard. Um, and then I think there's people who aren't as engaged as that, for whatever reason. I mean, it sounds like I'm being a bit judgmental, but I think there's pressures in life, and we've all got stuff going on. We've got families, we've got bills to pay, mortgages. There's places that we work that might not be very conducive to um, an aspiring optometrist to really
yep,
motivate themselves. So there's all sorts of
DO,
pressure.
professional development,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know,
There's all sorts of factors involved in this, which is something we're kind of looking into. One of the workshops we're doing this year about job satisfaction and stuff like that. So there's always these factors, but I think it's you will get people who go to conferences or go to events with the view of, I need to do this, I need to get points, so I'll go here, I can do it all, and it's done, and I don't have to think about it. Whereas you'll get others who will do every webinar go in, I'll do every conference go in, I'll go to LOC meetings, I'll go to, if a lens supplier's put an event on, they'll go to that, they'll go to one from an ophthalmologist provider. So I think I think we do need more of culture where we do sort of have a bit more passion for education, I suppose. And I think the social aspect's good as well. We do have that with 100% a little bit, I suppose, in England. Yeah.
Recurring comment that comes up in previous in the 5 previous pods that I've done today, 6 previous pods. The recurring theme is making contacts and building relationships,
Yeah.
because that is how people have progressed. They've kind of met someone, and whether that link has been the spark for a change then or 3 years down the line, um, is a recurrent theme. As I've said, I think it's a bit of a life thing as well. You kind of don't burn your bridges, particularly within our industry. And
It's a small world, isn't it, optics? So
yeah, a
it's
great thing. I think it was Karen who said it. She was like, just be open to opportunity, which obviously you've been open to opportunity because you've done so much, and it's your inquisitive nature and wanting to learn that has kept you pushing forward,
yeah,
progressing.
I think so. And I think it's like one thing that I was like I'd say definitely when I was younger, I wasn't really confident, and I like if you put me in a group of people, even now, if I'm with a group of people I don't know, I'm quite quiet. Um, but I think one of the things I found quite difficult was networking, and putting yourself out there. And I know it sounds cheesy, but being a brand, I'm not too good on the socials. I'm not a big, we do put stuff out on Instagram, but it's and LinkedIn. I hate LinkedIn. That just makes me proper cringe the stuff people put on LinkedIn. But for me to put myself out there and like, hey, everyone look at me and this is what I'm doing, I find that quite difficult. But I think just being around, getting to know people, having a conversation with them, having a pint with people, being friendly and affable with people, and you get introduced to other people, and then people remember you, and then there's been so many things that have dropped through my inbox that people who are kind of half known or know, met maybe a handful of times have recommended me to this person, and and they've passed on my email address to this person and stuff like that. So there are opportunities that come from it. But yeah, you just got to get out there, haven't you? Really, you've got to sort of make a few friends, make a few connections.
Yep. We've cracked 30 minutes, dude. We're at 33 minutes in no time. Uh, it was nice. It was nice to get a different perspective on the industry and see someone else's journey through it from a non-optometry view, because I know optometry, so I've seen other people's journeys, so it's nice to see someone who's not there come into that route. One last question, dude, just because it's late now, so you probably want to go and watch a bit of TV and
Let's see. Oh, hang on. Yeah, that.
past your bedtime.
I
Past your
know.
bedtime. So, if you were to give one piece of advice, work related, personal, to somebody who came to it, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Is this my inspirational quote, or is that coming
This is
after?
your inspirational quote. This is your moment. This is, you know,
So yeah, in terms of like, yeah, if I'm going to give people advice, I'd just say, just don't stop learning. Just as a lot of the stuff we do, or a lot of the content I do, a lot of it's not anything to do with optics, really. It's stuff that I've learned. I've read books about. I've learned about other aspects of life and science and psychology and all this kind of stuff. And I just think, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how that could be tied into optics, and then just kind of figure out something around that. But in terms of my inspirational quote, I'd say there's a quote from Louis Pasteur, and he said, "Chance favors the prepared mind." So, yeah, just make sure that you're there to take those opportunities. You know what what was that other one? I think it was Floyd Mayweather. The harder I work, the luckier I get. And that's all it is really. Just, yeah, keep an eye out
That's
for the
fantastic.
opportunities, and just, build a base of knowledge, and have a bit of perception about how you could link that with something else, etc. And then opportunities will hopefully come your way.
That is amazing. Because it is my pod and you are my friend. So why don't you share what event you've got coming up? And then if you email me the link, I'll drop it into like the comment section, and then they can register for Glasgow already, right? For 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2025, we've kind of scaled back a little bit on the number of events that we do, just because we want to
Okay.
make the events sort of bigger and better. So we've got Huddersfield coming up on the 18th of May, day after the FA Cup final, which I can't go to, but I might have to watch. We'll see. And then, so basically, we've got Huddersfield on the 18th of May, Birmingham on the 21st of September. Both of those events will have a CPD track aimed towards optometrists, which will be more clinical, and then a CPD track aimed more towards dispensing opticians, with more sort of general stuff, practice management stuff, bit more of a sort of broader scope, rather than the sort of clinical stuff. There's peer review in both tracks as well, so you'll definitely get your peer review. So you can get 20 points, 20 interactive points on the day. There's food. We give you lunch. There's refreshments. We've got some exhibitors supporting it as well. We've got some education from Bausch& Lomb, Optical Express. We've got Gemma Drake, who we've been working with recently. And we work on adding a couple more as well. So yeah, loads of good content. So you can book those via www.eyecare.education, which weird when it's backwards there. And then yeah, Glasgow is 18th and 19th of January, 2-day event. And you can get about 50 points. Yeah, so there's absolutely loads going on. There's about 30 exhibitors. There's fun and games, activities. There's all sorts of stuff. So yeah, loads of stuff. We're also doing loads of like webinars throughout the year as well. So we've got some that we're doing with Scott Lens that have been really well received. We're going to do some with Lork and Butler as well. We're going to do some non-optical stuff too, which we're hoping to open up to the wider world and sort of step out of our little industry a little bit as well. So yeah, WLOs. Yeah, we'll just check the website. That's all I can say, really.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks a lot, buddy. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to end here. So thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
And I will see you probably in Birmingham in a couple of weeks. Are you going to drop in?
27th of
Yeah.
April. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to Harry Potter World. So yeah.
So you won't be dropping it. Anyway, well, on that note,
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately
cheers.
not.
Thanks a lot, Stu. Really
No
appreciate you
worries.
taking the time, mate. Thank you.
I'll be there in spirit.